Welcome back to the Kinda Funny ScreenFAST. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the new face of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Gotta go fast.
You gotta go fast, Bless. And rounding out the group today, we have the one and only Big Kev Dog.
I don't think Knuckles had a line. But if he did, I knuckle up.
I mean,
guess
yourself.
Knuckle up.
Yeah. Right? That seems like something he'd do.
He'd say
It
that,
does.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he would say that. He would say that. Of course, this is the Kinda Funny Screencast, where every week we get together to talk about the latest in TV, movies, and trailers. You can watch it on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Screencast, and we will be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and wanted to watch live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like Molecule, Fargo Brady, Pranksy, and Anonymous have done. Today, we're brought to you by Chime, DoorDash, and Babbel, but I will get to that later. There is no time to waste. We got to go fast, everybody. We need to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It is finally out in theaters. We first saw the trailer back at the Game Awards in December, and here we are a few short months later getting the sequel to one of Blessing's favorite movies of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do. We like to do spoiler-free reviews before we get to the spoiler stuff when it comes to movies that just came out in theaters, and we are going to do just that on the Kinda Funny Screencast today. So let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, spoiler-free, to start this thing off. Blessing, what did you think?
I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it even more than the first movie. I'd say the things that I enjoyed about this movie in particular were how much it leaned into the references and the nerdy aspects of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like it's still the same like type of movie as the first movie, right? Like it's not super nerdy, right? It's not like it's a family movie. It's Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. It is the goofy jokes that will sometimes hit, a lot of times might not hit, right? It's that same kind of movie. I think it does feel a little bit more refined in some ways, and in the ways that it decides to be a Sonic the Hedgehog film. Getting Tails and Knuckles, I think, was awesome, and then Tails' character, I think, is perfect in this movie. I love how absolutely childlike and ridiculous they kind of explain the Tails character, but also like how like I like how he looks. I like his actual Tails and how he spins around. I like all I love how much he loves Sonic. Every single thing about Tails feels so childlike and whimsical in a way that I think is really cool and really fun. And then like the same thing for Knuckles, right? Like they play Knuckles as this brooding, a little bit scary but like tough character that at the end of the day, like, isn't necessarily, and this is a spoiler for the movie, this is just Knuckles as a character, right? Like, isn't necessarily a terrible bad guy. It's just like he's scary, right? And like he's a dude that's like after what he's after. And I think the way that Idris Elba plays him is very fun to watch. I think he does a very good job with it. Jim Carrey is Dr. Robotnik. For me, it's hit and miss in the jokes. I think he plays that character as well as he could play that character, but for me, the humor with Jim Carrey's Eggman doesn't always hit. Like I feel like most of the jokes for me, I'm like, all right, like I get it. That feels like a joke that's probably aimed for kids or aimed for families. But it might not necessarily be aimed for me. But I do think that like they had as much fun with that character as they could have. And at the end of the day, this movie had so many good Sonic references, from locations to enemies to like just general Sonic stuff, that like as a fan you'd appreciate that. I had a fantastic time with it. And also shout out to, I forget if this is in the original movie or not, but like this movie starts off with like a Sega intro that does like the Sega theme. And that shit hit me in the heart. Like Kevin was sitting next to me, and Kevin heard me make a sound that I don't think I've ever made before.
You groaned like a pleasurable groan. It was very odd.
Yeah, I've never done that before.
I feel you, man. Like this, like the intro was also part of the first movie, and I experienced it then, and I experienced it this time too. And like it's the same thing seeing even Detective Pikachu, like seeing the Pokeball, like Pokemon International Company, like pop up, like, and even the PlayStation Studios one before Uncharted. It's just kind of cool to see video games get treated that way on the big screen. But continue.
No, I mean that's pretty much it, right? Like, are we doing scores now, or are we waiting for later on?
Go for it.
Yeah, I think for me this would be a like a 4 out of 5, maybe like a lowish 4. Like if we're on a 10-point scale, probably like more toward a 7 rather than an 8. But yeah, I think this movie honestly is great. I think it's worth seeing. I think it's better than the first one, and yeah, I think it's a really good time. But the one thing I'll say too, one of the things that I at first didn't love, but then ended up loving in this movie was the B plot, which when you get there, we'll get there. And we'll probably talk about it in spoilers. The B plot in this movie feels like it's ripped out of an entirely different movie and put into this movie. It feels like it has nothing to do with anything. But by the time they come back around to addressing, like, all right, this is going to be the B plot moment, it is some of the best stuff in the movie, and I was not expecting that. I think it's hilarious. Again, like characters, James Marsden, all of them make the return in this movie, and I didn't necessarily care for them as much in the first movie. This time around, I really loved what they did with them, and part of that was the script getting them out of the way so Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails and Knuckles can do the Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles shit. But when you finally get back around to them, I think it's really fun and really awesome. And so, yeah, but shout out to the B plot.
Shout out to the B plot. Kevin Coelho, what did you think about Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
Wait, real quick about the B plot. Like at one point, I lean over to Bless and I'm like, "Why is this a story? Like, why is this a plot? Like, legitimately, I thought it was just to get rid of certain characters, and then they like kept cutting back to it, and I was just like, this makes no sense." But it worked out at the end. I enjoyed this movie more than the first. And I think part of that was also because we watched it in 4DX, and we
went fast.
4DX has an amazing intro. Like you know when movie theaters have intros for their little gimmick, like when it was 3D, they'd have the countdown thing.
Yeah. There's always the Dolby one, and I hate the Dolby one because the Dolby one is to show like how black the blacks are.
Out.
I love the Dolby experience. The Dolby intro is the corniest shit ever because it's like this is what black used to be. Now this is what black is now. Oh, we have Dolby. It's like get out of here. I don't care about how blacks look now. Just show me the movie.
It sounds like Blessing doesn't believe that the projector's still on. You know what I mean?
It's insane. Yeah. Come on, Bless. Like that moment always hits. Always hits.
It's so cheesy.
But yeah, this moment with the intro, I lost my shit because we've gone to it before. I've been there I think twice for 4DX, and this time they dialed it in. Where the biggest problem they had was the hazers would be way too much. The fog machines, way too much. It'd fill up the place for like 3 minutes. And now they only do a little bit, and it's perfect. Yeah. So anyways, that like I think it makes a more enjoyable movie experience. I think that this movie is as kiddie as the last one, which was my biggest problem because like the script's not great. We're not sitting here and being like, oh, they put down a great story. That being said, this one I thought was a lot more fun. So I'm not a fan of Jim Carrey either, and he's very Jim Carrey in this one. So I hope if there's more movies, we get less of him. But anyways, I'd probably put this around the 3 or okay category, leaning more towards the side of enjoyable than not enjoyable. It had moments that had me laughing that we'll talk about later.
We will talk about those later. I loved this movie. Utterly loved this movie. I feel like if you are an adult that does not have kids and does not have interest in Sonic, you do not need to watch this movie at all. It is not for you. You're not going to get much, if anything, from it. I do think that the jokes and the vibe are very almost exclusively geared towards kids. Even the jokes that are not geared towards kids are still referential humor that people like us are going to look at and be like, this is not good. What are they doing? They're dating themselves, all this type of stuff.
Oh my God, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's what Sonic is. That's what Sonic always has been. And no matter what, no matter how you look at it, it's for the kids and they are enjoying it. And they think that those references are funny because they think those are references that the adults or their older brothers or whatever are into. So they connect with it in that way and they think Sonic's cool. If you have kids, you need to take them to see this movie. This is one of the dopest kids movies I have seen in a long time. And I think that it is going to become required viewing for a generation of children out there. Seeing the kids in the theater around us react was such a special thing. I feel like that really elevated the experience even for me. Like, I was right next to this little girl and she was having the time of her life. She was so invested in the characters, waiting for new ones to show up. When any character was in danger, there was like a real fear. And it just brought me back to being a kid watching any of the movies we grew up with, and like how special they could be to us. And I just love that there's now this Sonic cinematic universe that kids are so invested in, and they're doing such a good job of delivering for them and continuing to set up plots for the future while also delivering on those plots. I think that's the biggest thing. We see a lot of movies tease something, and we either never get that thing ever, or we eventually do get it and it's not quite what we wanted. This movie teased, or the first movie teased Tails. We got it, and we got it so well done. And then the last category for me is, if you are a Sonic fan, you need to watch this movie. It delivers so much more than I ever expected it to. It didn't do some of the things I wanted to see most, and I don't care at all, because it did so many other things that I was like, damn. That was a deep cut. Some of the references they make that I want to shout out later, some of the little musical cues that they had, and just they committed to a story that made perfect sense to get them where they needed to be at the end, to allow all the moments people want to see to happen. And if I ask for anything more from a Sonic movie, I'm an idiot. So I'm very excited that I would say I would give this a 5 out of 5 for what it is trying to be, for it being a Sonic movie, and for it being a sequel to a movie that I really enjoyed and thought that there was a lot of good in. And a lot of what I said, I would also apply to that movie. I think it had less references and Sonic-y stuff. Like, I do think that having more of the Sonic and Friends in this with Knuckles and Tails was a major pro for the movie. And I'm on a different side than you guys. I think Jim Carrey is fantastic as Robotnik. I think it adds a layer of comedy that very well fits with who Robotnik is and the Looney Tunes type enemy that he always has been, before the Eggman days, before all that stuff. But just like what this Robotnik is, I thought they did a great job, especially building off the plot of the last movie. Him and his bad squad, all the things that they do. I thought that so much more of the comedy worked for me than I expected. But I do think it's a mindset thing, and I do think that you need to know what you're getting in going into this. It is not an MCU movie. It is not like a Pixar movie where it's like kids and adults can enjoy it. I don't think it's that type of thing at all. But I do think that it at moments made me feel like Avengers Endgame. And that's pretty damn crazy to say.
Yeah. I think that's for me one of the things that allows me to forgive it quite a bit is like, even though Jim Carrey, most of his jokes didn't hit for me, like this is the first time in a long time I watched like a kids movie that feels like hey, no, this is a kids movie. I've also like I watched Turning Red recently, and like watching that movie, I'm like, nah, man, as an adult, like this totally works for me. Like this feels like it is geared toward, hey, you can come into it no matter what. Like watching this movie, I couldn't imagine watching this movie as a kid and like hearing those same jokes as a kid, because I think the Jim Carrey stuff would have worked for me if I was 8 years old watching it, right? Like he is so goofy, he is so over the top, he is so maximum Jim Carrey, and like even though that stuff didn't hit for me as much watching this movie, I came out of this movie, came home, and then watched not Bruce Almighty. I watched Truman Show. I just like put on Truman Show and watched it, and I was like, damn, Jim Carrey is so good, right? And like a large part of that is how animated he is, to the point where he's in this movie playing alongside animated characters, and somehow he's the most animated character. I think that by itself is really impressive and really drills home the like how much this movie works as a kids movie. And then like for me and you, Tim, coming into it as like Sonic folks, seeing the references, right? Like there's not one moment I watch this movie that I regret watching it, because I got all the stuff, or I got most of the stuff I was looking forward to, right? I got all the references that I wanted. I got all like like anything as a Sonic fan that I wanted, in terms of, hey man, like what about this? What about that? What about like X, Y, and Z thing that makes Sonic for me that I might not have gotten out of the first movie, because the first movie felt so much like a family movie first, Sonic movie second. This movie feels more so along the lines of like, hey, this is a family movie and it's also a Sonic movie. Like both of those things are working hand in hand with each other in a way that makes it work for both audiences. And so I'm right there with you on that.
I want to get to our full spoiler conversation, but before I do that, let's get a word from our sponsors.
You got back-to-back meetings, errands to run, and chores to take care of. What's the secret to clearing your to-do list? A little help from DoorDash. You can get dinner, household essentials, and everything on your grocery list delivered. I'm gonna pause the ad and tell you, ladies and gentlemen, how do I know so much about DoorDash? I used it this morning. I woke up, I had to get the house ready, I had this guy coming to work on the garage, I had the nanny coming over, we had no clean bottles, I cleaned the bottles and everything, and I was like, I'm hungry and I need coffee and I don't have time to make either. I DoorDashed Jen and I some breakfast today and it was great. When I was sick last week, I DoorDashed Gatorade because I wasn't about to go out. DoorDash is great. Back to what they wrote. Ordering is easy and your items will be left safely outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and zero delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code KindaFunny. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code KindaFunny. Don't forget, that's code KindaFunny for 25% off your first order with DoorDash, subject to change, terms apply. For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college wasn't exactly a high point in our academic careers. I took 3 years of French and guess what? It didn't stick. Now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that's sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively easy and fun way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or just have some free time, Babbel teaches you bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually want to use in the real world. Je parle un peu français, and I was talking to Jen's mom here and there about little things. Mon chapeau, you know what it's about. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent. I could use that for English. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, you can save up to 60% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/kindafunny. That's babbel.com/kindafunny for up to 60% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early with direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank and Stride Bank NA, members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depend on the payer.
So here we are. It's spoiler time. Let's just start with the big one. Sonic turns in to Super Sonic at the end of this movie. It is so epic. It is so amazing. We see the Master Emerald break open and all the Chaos Emeralds come out, and I'm like, oh, they're doing it, y'all.
Dude,
they are about to do this thing.
I was not expecting to get Chaos Emerald lore in this movie. I was not expecting for them to talk about the Master Emerald. I was not expecting for them to like reference all the Chaos Emeralds. And I, even in the moment where it was happening, where Sonic's hugging the Master Emerald, right? Like Eggman steps on him with his robot, and like all shit is going to hell. I was like, well, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, turn into Super Sonic. But for some reason, throughout this entire movie, I forgot about Super Sonic. And so I was like, fuck, is it gonna happen? Like, how are they gonna get out of this? And so when he actually does it, it caught me off guard. I was like, oh shit, like we're here. And the animation that goes into it, right? Like the emerald spinning, him transitioning to Super Sonic, some of the most hype shit.
Incredible. I can't believe
That's
that they did it. You know, I thought that was, we were talking about it before the movie. It's like, that's the type of thing, like, oh, they're probably going to save it for the next movie or whatever. I just love that they committed to this one. And they're like, you know what? We have the trio. And I think that they did them so well with Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. Colleen O'Shaughnessy, the voice of Tails from the games, also voiced Tails in this. And she did such a great job. And I think that lent so well to the authenticity of Tails coming across as such a great character. Idris Elba, such a fun version of Knuckles. It worked so well. Ben Schwartz obviously is Sonic already. You either love it or hate it. I fall on the side of loving it. And having them together, especially the relationship between Sonic and Tails throughout the movie, facing off against Knuckles, as Bless was saying, the amount of lore that they kind of add to all this stuff, the references to obscure Sonic things that they had going on here, where Sonic being afraid of water, that's from Sonic X, the cartoon. And when they go underwater, and it is the scary moment of looking like Knuckles is going to drown. And I was like, oh my God, they're fucking doing it. And you see the air bubble pop up and they get the air bubble. I lost my shit, y'all.
That's really fun.
That was incredible. And like that moment got an applause out of the theater, which I think is also incredible. Enough people were like, oh, here we fucking go. This is what we want. This is like the Sonic level of Sonic reference that we want. Like that was awesome. I was surprised that like, I think Tails might have been my favorite character in this movie, and I think part of that is the performance, and then another part of that is just how authentically done I think Tails is, right? Like again, the innocence, the genius, the like always flying a plane, like everything about Tails felt so Tails in a way that like even Sonic and Knuckles feel like there are so many liberties taken for these movies to make these characters fit within these movies. Tails feels so Tails, and I absolutely love that, and also absolutely love that like I think having Knuckles and Tails in this movie really rounds things out in terms of the movie feeling a bit more, I guess, deep, maybe more refined, maybe more dynamic, right? Like the first movie, it just being Sonic and James Marsden. I think that's the thing that made it feel like not as much of a Sonic movie, right? Like obviously, like they're not gonna, bring us Tails and Knuckles and all this stuff in the first movie. Obviously, like it's meant to be a family movie, yada yada. And like I mentioned that, like the first one felt more like a family movie than a Sonic movie. I think just adding Tails and Knuckles really like branched things out in terms of just visually seeing the blue, yellow, and red. I think does so much when they're walking together on screen, where they're doing their thing, when they're in action sequences, like that automatically pops more. But then their dynamics being so different from each other, Sonic being so like kitty and fun and like and jokey, right? Tails being Tails, Knuckles being brooding and like tough and all this stuff. I think they play off of each other so well in a way that like really does replicate how they play off of each other in the video games and cartoons and stuff. Like I think that really added another layer to this movie that these movies really needed.
One thing that caught me off guard was how young Sonic was. Like I didn't realize he was like somewhere between 10 and 12, it seems like. And Shadow also, or not Shadow, but Knuckles also being around that age. I thought that was interesting, and the whole like them developing as a family with James Marsden caught me off guard too. Like at the end when we get the moment of like, all right, Dad, it's like, all right, okay, cool. Like I guess
that felt weird to me.
And there were a couple times too where they're like, let's go get our kid, and it was like, all right. I didn't know that was the relation. I thought he was like a cool roommate, but good stuff.
I mean, I feel like that's what they addressed in this movie, right? Like that was like even the beginning of them on the road. Like they were talking, like, are we friends or like what is our relationship? And I think
I'm just saying like that caught me really off guard in the sense that like I thought Sonic was like a full blown adult in the first movie, and I don't think that they did a good job explaining he wasn't. You know what I mean?
I think it's weird. I think the thing
I don't know how you didn't get that. He was a baby, and then it was like it flashed forward, and he was a kid with all his toys and shit in his room.
I think in the first movie they make like slight reference, but I also think that like Sonic, I think generally doesn't feel like he has a specific age in the games and in the cartoons and all that stuff. And so like, and I've always processed Sonic as being kind of just like this alien young adult creature. And so like watching the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, like I guess he's a kid in this one, but I feel like that's a movie specific thing, and then like some Sonic, like cartoon specific thing. Like I forget it when I'm watching the movie that he's a child until they mention it. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a child.
I don't feel like they did a good job mentioning. Like I don't know how quickly, this space hedgehog will grow. It seemed like it had certainly been a couple of years that he was on Earth. No, but I'm serious. Like in the first movie, I don't feel like there's any reference that says that he's a kid.
I mean, I guess I don't know what would reference you being a kid more than your room just being full of comic books and toys
like
and stuff. And
someone that like was like essentially a homeless person living in a cool little grotto cave thing. Like I feel like they're gonna pick up random knickknacks and then have them the whole. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One of the things that also caught me off guard was the sister-in-law subplot. The B plot where it was like
wedding.
And in the last movie, that character, she's all over the place, very aggressive, needs to be eventually kidnapped to like calm her down. And then in this one, so I didn't like her in the first movie. I was like, she's like unnecessarily annoying. And then in this one, halfway through, she finds out that like her fiance has been lying to her, and he's actually undercover trying to catch Sonic. And like then she just goes on the like attack plan to try to get both everyone back and revenge, and something about it won me over. When I thought they were like, oh, okay, this is what their excuse is to get rid of James Marsden and his wife. So
and more than that, excuse to get them out of the plot, and also an excuse to not have CG budget have to go to the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, let's
And-
have the humans do some shit.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. And then they kept cutting back to that. And it was just like, oh, James Marsden meets the fiance. Oh, James Marsden is now playing volleyball with the
It's so
fiance.
weird.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, this seems odd. But I mean, they worked it back around to a way where I was like, oh, I'm glad they introduced his friends. They were all like weirdly muscular and stuff. They were all like gun agents.
Yeah, when it finally delivered, I think that's when I was finally like, all right, this works. This because in the first half of the movie, when they kept cutting back to the B plot, I was like, none of this, this is all weird. Like, why in a Sonic movie am I watching a whole B plot about James Marsden going to Hawaii with his wife to like try and reconcile with her sister that he's not friendly with, right? And like, why is her buff husband playing volleyball, and why like. I just kept asking the question why. And so like when they did the ring switch thing, I was like, okay, like I guess that is the Sonic connection here, is that like he's gonna switch the rings. All right, let's see that pay off. And when it does, I was like, all right, like when you have the switch of her entire life being a lie essentially, and her husband and like their friends and everybody being these gun agents, and as they're introducing gun, right, if you like pay attention to the games, right, like that's an organization from Sonic Adventure, like once they introduce that, it's like all right, we're back here, like we're in it. And I think the whole sequence with the sister of her just wanting revenge on this guy, like I don't know how long that felt like it lasted a long time, but for the entire time that lasted, I was into it. I was like, all right, this is fun. This is like this movie is being dumb as hell, and I'm in for it, right? Like I'm into it. I'm digging it. I'm here for the ride. And like the ride didn't last too long, I think.
Yeah.
By the time they wrap it up, it's like cool. Now for the rest of the movie is gonna be Sonic, and I think they did that for the parts that mattered. Like by the time they get, because after that is the labyrinth zone or whatever. Like that is like the next step up, or the next part coming up, and that is what I don't want any interruptions for, like that part on. And so the fact that they got all that shit out of the way and then led up to essentially the third act, I think that was a good way to do it.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that reveal because I was right there with you. It's like, what is going on? Like, and I knew what was going on. It was budget shit, but I was like, that's not fun. I hate humans in Transformers. I hate humans in Sonic. Like, what are we doing? And when it paid off that it was immensely connected to Sonic stuff, it actually made sense, not just for the plot of this movie, but teasing more exciting things in the future and making the human subplot pay off in a way that was, I honestly say, hilarious. Like her going on her tear was so funny and so earned. So it's like, and throwing the ring and all that stuff, it's like, it was just, I thought, very well crafted from something that I thought there was no getting out of. Like I thought they set themselves up for failure. And then what Bless is saying, to then have the rest of the movie just be Sonic and friends, like them fighting the Death Egg robot was,
oh my god,
was literally perfect, man. Like the fact that the Death Egg robot wasn't just a 30-second cameo thing, which I kind of expected. I thought it was going to be like the 2017 Power Rangers movie, where it's like, oh, they finally are morphed and doing the thing. Oh, the movie's over. It wasn't that. Like they delivered a fight. It felt like Sonic Heroes, seeing the red, yellow, and blue just kind of like zigzag down the street. Jim Carrey in the mech, I thought was so funny, so well done. The way that they're fighting and all of it, I was just totally captured by. So love that stuff.
Shout out to how good the Death Egg looked as well. Like when he finally put it together on screen. Like I've been dodging trailers like hell, and so I assume it was in the trailer somewhere. But like either I forgot about it or I didn't see it because I didn't watch it. Seeing it on screen, I was blown away. I was shocked by how good it looked, and like there are some really good visual references to like Sega stuff, right? Like throughout the movie, but like the Death Egg for me was the biggest one of, man, I can't believe how good this looks. But then there are other small things like I think somebody pulls out Robotnik's like right-hand man pulls out the manual for the Death Egg, and it's like a Sega
Genesis
manual.
Instruction booklet.
Yeah, Genesis instruction booklet, and so like good. all the stuff that was like that, like really killed it. I thought that stuff was awesome.
Let's actually shout out all the references and things like that we noticed, because we see at some point Stone, the assistant, is like cycling through different outfits for Robotnik, and they like the camera kind of stays on a like classic Robotnik, like a fat
Yeah.
Robotnik for a while. So like that was fun. We got the underwater drowning thing where there was hints of the stress music for a second, like
Yeah, there's a
orchestrated.
point. I don't know if this is like the specific thing, but this is what I took from it. Where like they're underwater, Sonic looks down at Knuckles and starts like counting on 3, 2, 1. Like they push the thing, but even as they're doing 3, 2, 1, I was like, that has to be like the fucking
Yep.
underwater 3, 2, 1 reference.
In the beginning of the movie, it opens with them in Mushroom Hill Zone, and we see Robotnik there from the end of the last movie. And they do a whole like, what's it called? Rube Goldberg.
Yes.
Rube
Which
Goldberg,
one's one's the skateboarder and one's the the cool thing where
I think it's Rube.
domino effects. Rube Goldberg machine, and it's going down with like a boulder chasing Sonic and stuff. And while that's happening, it's like playing hints of the theme song from the '90s Looney Tunes version of Sonic cartoon, the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. We get a lot of the Echidna lore stuff going on throughout the whole thing. We get Baby Knuckles in this, which I didn't expect. We got you said it earlier, but from the outside we see Hidden Palace Zone, which is a cut level from Sonic 2 that you have to go into a debug mode to get into. But the inside of it was Labyrinth Zone, not just from the mazes, but when Sonic first goes in, there's like the water slides that he's going down. I was like, this is fucking sick. And in it we get a like, I don't know, 20-second bit where Sonic is just kind of like bouncing through corridors and like off of things and like spinning around. And I was like, damn, like we didn't get any of this in the first movie. So that was super damn
satisfying.
cool. And we just went this entire time without mentioning the biggest thing of them all.
Which one is this? Oh, you're talking about fucking Shadow the motherfucking Hedgehog being the post-credit scene. That I was expecting it. I was expecting before the movie. By the time we got to the end of the movie, I was like, are they gonna fit Shadow in here? I don't. It feels like it'd be out of nowhere. And then when you get the build-up of like Gunn talking about it and Gunn talking about like this old facility and all this stuff, I was like, here we go, we're gonna get it. And so they find the reveal of Shadow, I think was fantastic. He looks as good as I wanted him to look. I cannot wait to see whatever they do with Shadow the Hedgehog.
Dude, and I think they're gonna do it justice, man. Like I think these things are just getting better and better, and they're building a world. They've now built the world, like it exists, and it makes sense. We have all the key players that we need to like really have fun and do something cool. I loved the callback to the first movie at the end of this, where in the first movie it was Sonic playing baseball by himself, and he was playing all the different parts, but now he had his friends to play with him, and it was just like, damn, this movie pulled it off. Like they told a good story about friendship and like not being alone and all the camaraderie between like different people, even people you might not agree with, like Knuckles. Like I thought they just did a really good job making it heartfelt and not just a thing that's going to make kids laugh, but like it's a thing that kids can like grow with. Like I don't know. I think that this is definitely going to be one of those special kids movies.
And I think it's setting up the Sonic like the cinematic universe for success, because like even there's been interviews with Jim Carrey being like, yeah, I think I'm done with acting, yada yada. And like, even if he doesn't show up for future movies, I think we're okay, because like, you know, I think for a lot of people he's gonna be a fan favorite, you know, but like I think Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, that trio is so good, and like movies being centered around them already is off to a good start. But like if you're telling me that the villain for the next movie is gonna be Shadow the Hedgehog, and if you find a good person to play Shadow the Hedgehog, that's gonna be a banger regardless. And I think we're now like, as these movies keep going, they seem to be leaning more and more into the Sonic the Hedgehog parts of it, as opposed to like just the family movie parts of it. And so like, if next movie is the Sonic trio versus Shadow the Hedgehog, and it is like, hey, like it is Gun, it is like it's Sonic Adventure. Like if you call it Sonic 3, Sonic's Adventure, oh my god, that shit is gonna be fire. But yeah, like I got full trust in what where they take it, right? Like I think they're setting something up, setting something good up here. And I'm even excited for, what was the spinoff series they announced? Was that Tails?
Knuckles.
Like I'm excited for that too. And I also want a Tails spinoff thing. Like I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Tails in this movie as well. So yeah, give it all to me.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is gonna do well, and those spinoffs probably will also do well. The one thing that kind of bummed me out is that we didn't get the chemical plant. I was really hoping to see it somewhere.
Dude, imagine if the drowning sequence was just in purple water. Like honestly, like but hey, beggars can't be choosers at this point. It was a bummer for me, because that was the number one thing I wanted from this.
I could also could have seen the mean bean like underneath, like them going to like a subterranean thing and being like, oh, that's it, and it just it's too bad.
That's another reference I forgot to bring up is the Robotnik's assistant while he's waiting for Robotnik to return to the planet Stone is working at a cafe and it's called Mean Bean, which is a reference to Robotnik's Mean Bean machine, the game. Really so funny, a lot of fun stuff. And also Robotnik is straight up in this movie in his little flying pod, which is just
didn't use so it enough though. I would have liked to see it a little bit more because I think we only get like 2 or 3 shots with it, right?
I thought they were seed stealers and emerald stealers, if you know what I mean.
Shout out to Sonic snowboarding as well. I absolutely love that scene. One thing that bummed me out was like the movie opening up in Seattle and it doing like a chase thing, and I was like, is this finally where we're gonna get the city escape style? Like he's like snowboarding down because like Seattle's hilly, you know, Seattle's close to as hilly as San Francisco. You can make it happen here, and they didn't do it. Instead, they did like a weird like Sonic is Batman / Spider-Man for some reason in this scene that I thought was kind of like a bit out of place, but it's whatever. It was a fun action sequence, so I don't mind it too much.
It was the setup to the theme of him being like what a hero actually means, right?
Yeah, which a bit of that was like, it wasn't forced, but it was like, all right, I've seen this a million times. Like, I know what you're doing. Like, it was very shallow. I think that's like, the perfect word for it.
It's crazy because it definitely worked with me when they hit the Knuckles, like coming.
When Knuckles like saves him, or when they save each other. Essentially.
Well, there's that battle. Yeah, when Knuckles understands, oh, this guy's a good guy.
Yeah.
One thing or go for it, Tim.
Just real quick, I was gonna say, in terms of references and stuff, like I am blown away by how much they gave us. I am shocked by how little musical cues actually were referenced. Like there was the drowning thing, there was the Sonic Adventures of Sonic intro music a little bit, but like we got so little. Like we got the Green Hill Zone intro for the Paramount logo, but throughout the movie, like there weren't references to Sonic 2 music like at all. And when they were snowboarding, the biggest letdown is not having the ice cap zone. Like, just come on. Don't have generic action music. Just have a dope-ass orchestrated version of Ice Cap Zone, but it's okay.
Yeah, and no, like, Emerald Hill reference, which, like, I was looking forward to as well. Like, I was expecting, like, a sign or something, and I don't think there was anything that was Emerald Hill. One thing that I was wondering was, like, why... It seems like there's a lot centered around shit being on Earth. Like, when they found the map to the Master Emerald... I was like, all right, like, are they on Earth for this thing? They're finding the map on Earth. All right, cool. And then they went to the labyrinth, right? And like they got there, and it's like on Earth underground. Was there any explanation for like why all this stuff is on Earth as opposed to like other planets? Because like all of them are otherworldly, right?
Yeah, but like the owls, so dumb. The owls had decided Earth was like a good hiding place for this stuff, and that's why Sonic was dropped.
That's
off
why they sent him to Earth.
Yeah. Because someday he'd probably have to get the emeralds. So the owl Longclaw, right? No, Longclaw. Did she kill all the echidnas that were coming after her, and they also subsequently killed her? Is that what happened there?
I mean, there was a war between the owls and the echidnas.
I mean, it seemed like
I don't think she killed them. I think she was just killed. We saw it in the first movie.
Yeah,
they all came up on her. She was she had no weapons or anything.
But then Knuckles is like they never came back, or like my dad didn't come back from that.
Yeah,
so she at the very least killed Knuckles' dad.
I don't think she did. I'm
pretty sure it was just her. Right?
But I mean, there were other owls. We didn't see them, but there were. You got to imagine they like came in and were like, "You just killed her. Fuck y'all." You know, I don't think she beat them up.
Yeah, and I assumed it was like I don't know if that was all the same encounter too. Like it might have been like part of the ongoing.
No, because I'm pretty sure it was the exact same encounter. Because Sonic's like that same. He says that day I lost everything too.
I mean, it might have been like.
They literally cut to the shot of the over the shoulder ring where you see all the echidnas.
Them doing the Obi-Wan Kenobi, the hologram with the mom, I was like, this is so ridiculous, but I love it. I love it. And given the moment with Sonic, like the audience was like, oh, and I'm like, this is hilarious. Like that a Sonic movie's making people feel shit. Hell yeah, man. Sonic 3 has been confirmed. Oh my God, the product placement.
As aggressive in this movie as it was in the previous movie.
Dude, it was so fucking funny.
I don't know that I noticed it, but I do want to buy a Chevron.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like getting some Oreo thins.
I okay, that stuff aside, the Olive Garden joke, the fact that they brought it
Olive
back
Garden joke was great.
multiple times in this,
I mean, I thought that was
so
funny. I thought
fucking funny, dude. Like, it was so good. And then later, he was like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll just send him a gift card." And it's like, they're gonna send him
What
an
a
Olive Garden
random-
gift card.
random
That's
thing.
so fucking funny, man. God, what a feature film, everybody. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Sonic 3 has been confirmed. A Knuckles spin-off show has been confirmed. Bless, we are living in the best timeline.
can't
Until
believe it.
next time, I love you all.